To make it to the Super Bowl, all of the dominoes have got to fall in the right way for your franchise. Certainly that's been the case for John Schneider and company. Which moves were pivotal in getting the Seahawks back to the Super Bowl? We're going to be discussing and debating coming up next here on our Wednesday edition, Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A special thanks to all the 12s who are listening in. And thank you from me and my co-host in crime, Rob Rang, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week, whether you are tuning in from nearby Pullman, Washington, or you're across the country in Des Moines, Iowa. Thank you for making Locked On Podcast Network the number one podcast network for sports. We're 4 days away from kickoff at Levis Stadium, Super Bowl 60. Seahawks taking on the Patriots in 49ers land. It's going to be a lot of blue and green. 49ers fans, you might want to turn your TVs off. It is a Super Bowl themed matchup Wednesday coming your way. We're going to dive into all the crucial positional battles to watch going into the big game with a Lombardi trophy at stake. And we're going to be looking at how Seattle got in this position with some discussion and a little bit of debate coming your way. John Schneider's signature moves to build this franchise back into a Super Bowl contender. Without further ado, let's get to it. Now for your lead story here on our Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks. Pretty much every time an NFL team makes it to the Super Bowl, you got to have some luck on your side. You have to have the dominoes fall your way, whether it's personnel, scouting, free agency moves, being healthy, avoiding the injury bug. It takes a lot of special things to come together, a lot of the right dominoes to fall in place to make the Super Bowl. And as it turns out, the Seahawks, they are in that prime position now, getting ready to battle the Patriots in Super Bowl 60 because those dominoes, for the most part, fell the right way. And sometimes they fell that way when originally they weren't supposed to fall that way. And that's what makes good fortune part of the equation when you look at getting to the Super Bowl. So, Rob, you and I, we are quickly going to just kind of have a spirited discussion here. It actually might be tough to narrow this down, talking 12 moves. We might not even get to all 12, but kind of talking about the moves that John Schneider made that really allowed these dominoes to fall in place and have the fortune to get back to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to give you the mic first to dish out a couple of your ideas as far as ones that would be at the back of the list that are still very important for Seattle being in the position it's in.
Corbin, here we go. I mean, the Seahawks are on the verge of the Super Bowl. I am fortunate enough to work for FoxSports.com and to write articles for two teams that I've actually personally received paychecks from, the Seattle Seahawks, the New England Patriots. And when I was asked to basically write 12 different moves, they gave me free reign. I could have said 5 moves. I could have said 10 moves. I went with 12 because the Seahawks, the 12s. The New England Patriots have gone to 12 Super Bowls now. So 12 is a magic number for them as well. So let's just focus in on the Seahawks, of course. And I struggled with this because I could not find a spot among the top 12 for Cooper Kupp. And Cooper Kupp is a person that is, near and dear to my heart in a lot of different reasons. And a lot of our fans and viewers, listeners have, thank you as always for your support. They know that I am a teacher. And my very first time as a student teacher is actually at Davis High School in Yakima, Washington, where Cooper Kupp played his high school ball. And I have great memories at Eastern Washington University, where, of course, Cooper Kupp played his college ball. I've gone to the Los Angeles Rams, watched Cooper Kupp there become, essentially one of the great wide receivers in NFL history with his Triple Crown award-winning season for the Los Angeles Rams. And yet still, he didn't make the top 12 moves I think that John Schneider and the Seahawks have made to get themselves into the Super Bowl. So I'm going to list my top 3 here in descending order, 12, 11, and 10. Trading for Rashid Shaheed. On November 4th, 2025, we have seen the 3 touchdowns that he has been able to score as kick and punt returner over his 11 games as the regular season as well as the postseason for the Seahawks. To me, that has completely turned everything on its side, I had to mention Rashid Shaheed among those top 12 reasons why the Seahawks are in the Super Bowl. Number 11 was training for Leonard Williams on October 28th, 2023. Leonard Williams, Big Cat, has been unbelievable for the Seahawks. All-pro player, a player who should have been ranked a heck of a lot higher than 99th overall, as we talked about a couple of years ago. And then training for Ernest Jones, October 23rd, 2024. To me, those are three of the moves that you have to include on this list.
I've got all three of those higher on my list than what you do, just because we're talking all pro players that you got for no more than a second round pick. That was the highest compensation they gave up. And we'll see what happens with Rashid Shaheed. But if they re-sign him and you have got a second contract with all three of these guys, then those moves all are near the top. I've got him at number 12 through number 10, finding Jalen Sundell in undrafted ranks. I mean, the dude signed one day before training camp 2 years ago, and now you can argue he's a top half at minimum starting center in the National Football League, and there's a lot of room for him to get better. And then the two waiver wire claims, I have Josh Jobe at number 11. He has been a solidifying player in that secondary. And Drake Thomas at number 10. Drake Thomas had almost 100 tackles this year. And the human bullet, as I like to call him, he is going to be potentially a massive player in this game coming up on Sunday. And the Raiders had him and they cut him, and the Seahawks plucked him off of the waiver wire. So those three moves come in at number 12 through number 10 for me. Looking at the next three on my list, I've got Rashid Shaheed at number 9 on my list. At number 8, hiring Clint Kubiak and John Benton. I think those two, adding them to this mix, that's the second coaching move that I've got on this list. I think getting those two guys in tag team in tandem was incredibly important. And then coming in at number 7, trading up for Nick Emanwari in the draft in April. That might end up in the long run being higher on this list if we revisit it, but just because he's a rookie and he did miss 4 games, I've got him at number 7, but we know what kind of a game changer he's been.
No question about it. And I would love to hear the rest of your list, because you're going to have to cut out some players or some coaches that I did not. I'm going to just jump in. Number 9, drafting Byron Murphy, 16th overall, April 25th, 2024. Again, this article with a complete breakdown and explanation for not only the Seahawks moves, but also for the Patriots moves at foxsports.com. Again, number 9, drafting Byron Murphy, the second, 16th overall, April 25th, 2024. Number 8, drafting Grady Zabel. I just think that you cannot talk about the Seahawks and their offensive line improvement that they have shown this year. You mentioned John Benton specifically. I'll mention him in a few moments here. But drafting Grady Zabel is 18th overall, April 24th, 2025 is my number 8 move. And then signing DeMarcus Lawrence, March 13th, 2025, to me was one of the most underrated moves in all of NFL free agency. The Seahawks are not in Super Bowl 60 without Tank on their field.
Yeah, and that's where I'm starting at number 6 here next to my list. I actually have, you and I did this a little different with our articles. I merged some of these together. I put signing Sam Darnold and DeMarcus Lawrence together as one move in March, and that was number 6 on my list. That should tell you how crazy this sequence of 3 years has been. Obviously, Sam Darnold has elevated the quarterback play. DeMarcus Lawrence has been as valuable as any player in Seattle's defense this year. Those two moves both of them were kind of skewered by some people in free agency and ended up being two of the best moves, if not the best moves that anybody made this past free agency period. So John Schneider deserves a lot of credit for that. At number 5, I've got trading Ernest Jones and Leonard Williams. I've got those two trades at number 5 just because both of them got extended and they are continuing to be all pro cornerstones for the Seattle Seahawks. Those two moves are as critical as any getting this team to the Super Bowl. And at number 4, this again, you and I did this a little different. I've got hitting the jackpot in the first round, 3 straight drafts. Think about who they got in the first round: Devin Witherspoon, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Byron Murphy the second, and Grady Zabel. You got 4 all-pro caliber players in 3 years in the first round. That is how you quickly go from being a third-place team to being a potential Super Bowl champion in a couple years span.
No question about it. I mean, look, hey, I like Philly cheesesteaks and I like club sandwiches as well. If you're going to have both, sign me up. But I had to go with individual moves rather than combining things. So again, I went with individual moves here. So I mentioned my moves here before. Again, going with the individual signees. I'm going to go with at number 6, drafting Devin Witherspoon, 5th overall, April 27th, 2023. Number 5, trading up to select Nick Eamon-Warry, 35th overall. He was my 15th overall ranked prospect. For Seattle to get him at 35, to me, was one of the great steals. And we're seeing the genius of John Schneider and the way that has turned out for the Seahawks. Number 4, hiring Clint Kubiak. Sure, since we're throwing things in here, hiring Clint Kubiak, hiring John Benton, hiring Rick Dennison, and the rest of the coaches that Seattle brought in. And by the way, we're going to be having a conversation, but there is an awesome interview on Emerald City Spectrum right now between Corbin and John Benton. And I would certainly, welcome and encourage all of our listeners and viewers to listen to that interview. It is spectacular. Number 3, drafting JSN, 20th overall, April 27th, 2023. Signing Sam Darnold to me is the number 2 move. And number 1, no question about it, John Schneider. Of all of the coaches that were available, and there were some damn good ones in my opinion, obviously hiring Mike Macdonald January 31st, 2024, to me, completely turned around this franchise.
Yeah, I've got one that you don't even mention here at number 3, trading Geno Smith and DK Metcalf, because you don't get Nick Eamon-Warry if you don't trade away DK Metcalf. They had to use that pick to then go up and get him. So that there was dominoes there. And quite frankly, Seattle's been more potent without him. And then the Geno Smith, look, I still think Geno Smith could have been very successful in Clint Kubiak's offense. We're never going to know, though. I don't know that he would have been as successful as Sam has been, but that move has ended up paying dividends for both Sam Darnold and for the Seahawks with what Geno did this year. And they got draft picks back for both those guys. So to me, that was kind of one of those pushing over the edge type moves, sometimes addition by subtraction type thing. And at number 2, hiring Mike Macdonald, I thought I would go with him as number 1, but I still, number 1, this all got started by trading Russell Wilson, Rob. That move set everything in motion. You got Charles Cross, you got Boye Mafe, you got Devin Witherspoon off of draft picks that you got as part of that. It opened up cap space. To me, that was the first move that just kind of set everything else in motion and set up to have some of those middle round picks. They could make some of the moves they made as well. That to me brings everything together.
No question about it. I was basically asked to write this article in the last 3 years. Number 3, of course, Russell Wilson is no question. Russell Wilson, John Schneider's selection of Russell Wilson, the 3rd round, number 75th overall, was arguably the biggest move this franchise ever made. Trading him away for the bounty of picks that they got was arguably the 2nd biggest move this franchise in 50 years has ever made. So if you want to go all the way back, there's no question about it. Getting all of those selections for Russell Wilson should be number 1 on this list.
All right, let's shift our gears now. We are going to be moving on to Matchup Wednesday, Super Bowl edition. The first time in Locked On Seahawks history will be Seahawks offense going up against the Patriots, almost said Broncos, Patriots defense coming up here in Super Bowl 60. Don't go away. You're listening to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks. This episode is brought your way by our friends over at TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress of the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person and connect online. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. For a limited time, you can have all your taxes done by a TurboTax professional for just $150, whether you've used a TurboTax expert in the past or not. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. February can be a lot. Flowers, candy, stuffed animals, and so much talk about relationships. And it can honestly feel like everyone else has it together in their love life. But here's the truth. Whether you're married, dating, single, or just focusing on you, most people are still trying to figure it out. And no matter where you are in your romantic journey, therapy can help you find your way. It can help you get clear on what you want, what feels heavy, and how to take some pressure off. Therapy can help you recognize patterns that might be weighing relationships down. And even if you're not in a relationship right now, therapy can help you feel more confident in what you want moving forward. BetterHelp has licensed therapists in the U.S., and they do the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your goals. And if you want to switch therapists, you can do that at any time. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BETTERHELP.com/lockedon. Pint to Pint, the Space Needle is the perfect pregame or pre-funk spot for tonight's game or concert after 4 p.m. The Space Needle's Pint to Pie gives you the whole package: an entree, a savory sweet tip-top pie, and a pint of beer, wine, or a non-alcoholic drink, all for just $35 per person. Minimum purchase of 2 required. Pint to Pie is your launch pad to game night. Gear up for a cracking home game at Climate Pledge at the Space Needle, Seattle's most iconic destination, not just for the views, but for the evening. Toast to the home team, then roll into Climate Pledge with the best pregame story in Seattle, whether it's a date night, friend night, or you're just here for the deal of it all. Come take your place in the horizon with Pint and a Pie, only $35 a person. Limited time offer, 21 and up only, ID required. Get tickets at spaceneedle.com, minimum of 2 required. Welcome back to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm your host, Corbin Smith. He's Rob Rang. A special thanks to all the 12s tuning in. And thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. You live your team every day. Now's the perfect time to level up and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today. You get Locked On Seahawks with no interruptions, members-only Discord, access, and more. Just $5 a month or $50 a year. And right now, to sweeten the pot through Super Bowl Sunday, type in the code Super Bowl, all one word, at lockedonseahawks.supercast.com. You get the first month of the Everydayer Club free. That's the code Super Bowl through the end of Sunday, Super Bowl night. All right, Rob, let's get to the matchups. It's Super Bowl edition matchup Wednesday, and you and I, we get so excited talking about these moves. We got to roll through this. Let's get rolling here. Let's talk Seahawks offense against the Patriots defense. And I just feel like this game, most football games you can say this, but this one specifically is leaning very heavily towards the trenches. And when I look at an area that could be concerning in this game for the Seahawks, it's the interior O-line: Gray Zabel, Jalen Sundell, Anthony Bradford, who, by the way, my interview you mentioned with John Benton, I don't know that there was a player he spoke more glowingly about than Anthony Bradford. And so those of you that maybe still have issues with him, the guy's played pretty good football the last 10 or 11 games. John Benton seems to echo that. But still, these 3 young bucks having to deal with Christian Barmore and Milton Williams, who has just been utterly dominant in the playoffs. Those 2 guys can be game wreckers that can destroy drives. This is a great litmus test for this young guard and center group to see how they hold up against 2 of the best defensive tackles in the National Football League.
Corbin, I'll say it this simply. If we don't hear Milton Williams' name during the broadcast, Seahawks win. Milton Williams can take over this game. He did a year ago against the Kansas City Chiefs for the Philadelphia Eagles. And of course, he was a player for them, up until last season, and then signed a $100+ million deal, despite never being a full-time starter for the Philadelphia Eagles. But New England did a great job of advanced scouting, recognized what he could do. 6'3", 290 pounds. He can play up and down the line of scrimmage, but there's no question about it. If you look at the Seahawks offensive line, their weak point has been Anthony Bradford at the right guard spot. So that's where I expect him to play. I think expect Christian Barmore also to play. Barmore is more a barn door, to kind of use a little bit of a pun here. He is broad. He is powerful. I think that Anthony Bradford is going to be able to handle that. It's one of the things that, John Benton talked about, is that very few people are going to be able to bull rush Anthony Bradford. I would 100% agree with that evaluation. However, the quickness, the lateral agility, the initial burst that Milton Williams provides is going to make this a formidable matchup for Anthony Bradford. And even if he goes up against Jalen Sundell at center, or if it goes left side against Gray Zabel, he is just that damn quick. And so that is going to be something the Seahawks are going to have to deal with. They're going to have to use Sam Darnold perhaps on some rollouts. They might have to have the center kind of pinch over a little bit, maybe even Abe Lucas at the right tackle position. The Seahawks need to focus a little bit on Milton Williams as well as perhaps Christian Barmore if he gives the Seahawks some troubles. But again, I think that this is one of the critical matchups that Seahawks fans should be paying attention to. If Seattle is not successful on Sunday, I promise you, Christian Barmore and Milton Williams have a huge part of that.
And I want to transition to the Seahawks backfield. And this isn't just the run game. I'm expecting New England, who has upped their blitz percentage by quite a bit in the playoffs. They've been a lot more aggressive sending extra guys. I'm expecting them to be aggressive once again in this game and try to get Sam Darnold off of his game in the pocket. See if they can get some quick pressures, force him into some bad decisions, or take away that first read and then get him bogged down by multiple defenders coming into the pocket. That's where the running backs in the passing game come into play. And we've talked about this some earlier this week. I think, look, Robert Spillane was the only guy that did not practice for the New England Patriots on Wednesday. He's had some injury issues he's had to work through. He's already not the most fleet of foot, even when he's 100% healthy. Christian Ellis is not a guy that flies around the field either. Both these guys have been vulnerable at times in coverage. Ken Walker III and George Holani, I'm going to keep throwing him out there as the X factor. Like, these guys are smooth pass catchers with wheels and burst after the catch. If Sam Darnold's going to beat some of those blitzes, I think Clint Kubiak can cook up some schemes here where the running backs are on outlets. You can get the ball to them and let them create. And those guys might be able to get you some chunk plays. And then I am confident they're going to be able to find a way to run the football when nobody else in the AFC to this point has done that against this Patriots team. But I think getting the running backs involved in the passing game could help open up that run game a little bit.
Oh, no question. And that to me is one of the most important factors of this game is Seattle being able to play that complementary football that Mike McDonald talks about. Look, I think that it's critical that Seattle runs the ball, not necessarily has to get a bunch of big plays, but at the same time has to stay committed to running the ball 25 times in this football game. Robert Spillane, the Patriots inside linebacker, he's the one that wears the green dot. He is the leader for their defense, makes all the calls. If he is unable to play, then it's going to likely be a player that Mike Vrabel is very familiar with, Jack Gibbons, he brought over from Tennessee, who is going to be the Patriots starter. Now, it could be Spillane, but again, if it's Jack Gibbons, then this is a guy who's played, he started 28 games, 8 starts for the Patriots this season, 28 games in 40. He started 28 games of the 46 in which he has been in the NFL. He played his college ball at Abilene Christian. He's 6'3", 240 pounds. That suggests to me that he is not a guy that has the lateral agility to be able to keep up with a Kenneth Walker III, or as you mentioned, a George Holani. So whether it be in the running game, whether it be in the outlet as a receiver, Seattle's running backs have got to make the Patriots linebackers miss in space and be able to create some chunk plays.
And last but not least, I think when you look at the big matchups going into this game, you can't overlook the receivers against the corners because, as you've mentioned, this may be New England's biggest strength that they have on their football team. This is a corner group that's got Christian Gonzalez that's played extremely well this year. Carlton Davis has had a strong season in New England. And even in the slot where, Marcus Jones has given up 8 touchdowns, but look away from that, he's got some other stats that are really good. He's got a low completion percentage against. He has been able to get his hands on the football a lot. He's feisty. He'll come up and defend the run. He'll hit people. He plays physical for a 5'8" corner. I am curious, though, to see how Seattle's size at the receiver position potentially causes problems, particularly for Marcus Jones. Cooper Kupp is a much bigger player than him. When JSN's in the slot, he's 6'1". He's a lot bigger. We talked Jake Bobo the other day, 6'4". I'm wondering in the red zone or in, critical third down situations, could they use Jake Bobo in those spots and try to have his size outgun Marcus Jones? And on the outside, JSN, Gonzalez, get your popcorn ready matchup. Really, the X factor could be Rashid Shaheed going up on the other side against Carlton Davis or against Gonzalez, depending on what side of the field they're on. But this feels like this has got a lot of moneymaker potential there in terms of who's going to win this football game.
Corbin, I was prepared to talk about this as our first matchup here for the Seahawks on offense, Patriots on defense, because I really think it is that critical. I think that, as you said, get your popcorn ready. To me, the watching JSN and Christian Gonzalez, I think that you are seeing two of the absolute best players in all of the NFL that are under 26 years old. I just am excited to watch this from a scout. I think there's a possibility that New England will ask Christian Gonzalez to follow JSN wherever he goes and essentially try to just eliminate him from Seattle's passing attack. I don't think it's necessarily going to work. We have seen JSN in every single game this year go for at least 70 yards. And so I do think that he is going to be successful. But Christian Gonzalez, to me is among the 3 or 4 best cornerbacks in all of the NFL. He has the size, he has the speed, he has the lateral agility, he has the tackling ability. He hasn't given up an open field tackle to a receiver all year long. That's a huge part of JSN's success. So I do think that the Patriots are uniquely positioned to be able to slow down arguably Seattle's best player on their entire damn roster in Jackson Smith-Njigba. So you mentioned Jake Bobo, you mentioned Rashid Shaheed, Cooper Kupp, certainly. I mean, these are all players that might be able to kind of step up to the challenge. Marcus Jones has 2 pick sixes this year, including against the Houston Texans in the divisional round just a couple of weeks ago. So again, I think that this is one of the areas in which Seahawks fans should be concerned because Sam Darnold, of course, has thrown the ball up out there a few times. But I also think that Seattle's size, as you said, sir, could wind up being a huge factor in this football game.
When we come back, we got to switch gears. Drake May and the Patriots, number 2 ranked offense against the Seahawks, number 1 ranked defense as we continue our Super Bowl edition matchup Wednesday. That'll be coming up as we return to Locked On Seahawks. As the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference. That's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated number 1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. And it's easy to see why. Over 30 weekly options, including family-sized meals and different dietary choices. Everything arrives pre-portioned, so there's less prep, less mess, and no wasted food. Save time and money. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off their first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. Let's be real. Nobody starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or the hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. And knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you real peace of mind. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonNFL and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonNFL. One more time, that's gusto.com/lockedonNFL. Matchup Wednesday, Locked On Seahawks. I'm your host, Corbin Smith. He's Rob Rang. A special thanks to all the 12s who are tuning in. And thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. We are in the midst of Super Bowl week. Seahawks Patriots ready to battle for the Lombardi Trophy on Sunday night. First time ever Matchup Wednesday is on Super Bowl week. And Rob, we've got Seahawks number 1 ranked defense against the Patriots, number 2 ranked offense, 2 of the very best in those respective sides of the football. Let's get to the matchups. And I started with the trenches. last time. Let's go in reverse here, because as much as we mentioned with the Seahawks receivers going against New England's corners, that could be a concerning matchup, I feel like this one from the other side of the coin, I am bullish on the Seattle Seahawks corners going up against New England's wide receivers, and that is not disrespecting them. I think Stephon Diggs is still a very good player, 1,000-yard receiver. He scored a handful of touchdowns, 80-plus catches. But at this point, his game is predicated on the intermediate part of the field rather than winning downfield very often. That's just not his game anymore at this stage. I think Seattle's corners, as physical as they are going to take those away from Stephon Diggs. He's going to have a hard time getting separation against these guys. And the rest of this receiving core, the only one that really scares you that's been able to create those chunk plays consistently has been Kayshon Boutte, and he's got 33 catches the entire year. It depends if he shows up or not, and he's still not a guy that is a separator, at least in terms of his athleticism, but his route running does allow him to get into wiggle free, and he can blow the top off the defense. He can create after the catch. Still, this feels like a matchup that the Seahawks are the team that's got the star power weighted on their side, and they've got the horses back there to make things very tough for New England if they try to get that vertical passing game going the way they have much this year.
No question about it. The Seahawks have the horses on their side. They have the better players on their side, basically from the top down, the entire roster. The Seahawks should win the Super Bowl. They are the better team. At the same time, that doesn't mean jack when it comes to the Super Bowl, because this is a one-game thing, and Stephon Diggs has completely changed how he plays the game. He was a speed guy. He was a vertical, he was Rashid Shaheed before there was Rashid Shaheed, at least in the NFL, as a vertical threat, and he's completely changed his game. He's more Cooper Kupp now than he is Rashid Shaheed. His ability to get open in the intermediate in short areas, to just show very late hands and terrific body control. I don't remember the PFF numbers, but I want to say it was like 10 contested catches out of 13 opportunities, almost like Tyler Lockett. And this is a smaller guy that just shows incredible body control and awareness of the ball in flight. Now, Devin Witherspoon has that ability to also, man up just about anybody. And I mentioned Witherspoon in particular because I just think that his size gives him a little bit of an advantage. If you have a guy like a Reek Woolen who's 6'3", and going up against a guy like a Stephon Diggs who just has, at 6 foot, has a little bit more change of direction just because of physics, being a shorter, quicker kind of a player. I do think that Witherspoon is going to be the guy who is going to be asked to cover Stephon Diggs. And so similar, as I mentioned before, with Milton Williams on defense, if you don't hear Stephon Diggs' name being mentioned over and over and over again, the Seahawks win. I think that Drake May is going to be focusing on Stephon Diggs, but at the same time, at 6'4", Mac Hollins has that size to go up against maybe some of Seattle's smaller corners. No doubt about that. Demario Davis has the straight line speed to be able to kind of just run by guys. So he is somebody that I worry about. Demario Douglas, not Demario Davis, but Demario Douglas, 4.44 in a 40-yard dash. He might be able to just right on by, blow past Josh Jobe. So I think that New England has the receivers. It's just whether or not that Drake May has enough time and he's willing to throw down the field rather than rush. That, to me, is going to be one of the big question marks for the Patriots.
Let's mix some breaking news with Matchup Wednesday, and I wish that it was not the case right now, but we were planning to talk about Nick Emmanwori going up against Drake May and potentially the tight ends, Hunter Henry being the lead in that front. And we talked about how valuable Nick Emmanwori can be in this particular game. And unfortunately, Emmanwori suffered an ankle injury today during practice while defending a pass. This just came out on the pool report for Seattle's practice. He had to be escorted off the field, according to the pool report that came out today from Kalen Kaler. The pool report saying that he had to be comforted by teammates coming off the field. Now, that does not mean necessarily that this is a severe injury. We don't know whether this is something that's going to potentially knock him out of the game on Sunday or not. I've seen guys come off the field with mild sprained ankles before and get consoled, and then they come back. But this completely opens things up for a discussion where what do the Seahawks do if number 3 is not out there on Sunday? Does Drake Thomas take over as your main spy guy that is going to be charged with watching Drake May? How does that impact the way that you do your personnel grouping? Is it against Hunter Henry? I mean, this would be a massive blow to the Seahawks if number 3 can't play in this game.
No question about it. Again, I had the selection of Nick Eamon as one of the biggest moves that Seattle had made. Their trade up to get him was number 5 overall move. If number 3 is not available to the Seahawks, and that changes everything. And you talked about it yesterday, actually, as possibly a wild card. Could be Ty Okada. Ty Okada is going to be the next man up in this game. And I think in some ways he's actually maybe even Nick Eamon equal in terms of an open field tackler. He's not as long. He's not as fast, but he plays with an intensity and with a consistency as an open field tackler that I think if the Patriots see a potential injury and Nick Eamon is not available to the Seahawks, it's not like there is a massive drop off of a cliff here with Ty Okada, at least in my opinion. I think that the man can play ball. And I don't think that New England has the variety of pass catchers out there to completely change the game plan. Now, no question about it, you'd rather have Nick Eamon out there and Ty Okada being able to kind of sprinkle in. But I do think that this is significant news, but also that the Seahawks have the depth behind him to be able to play a little bit. And just kind of going through the conversation about Hunter Henry at the tight end. Jack Westover, who, of course, was with Seattle and formerly with the University of Washington as one of the more versatile fullbacks / H-backs in all of the NFL. And then getting back to the bigger point, Corbin, that you mentioned, Drake May and his running ability. Look, it's interesting because we talked about the possibility of Seattle using Eamon or Drake Thomas or Ernest Jones as possibly being a spy, and they may very well do that. That is something that Drake May at his size, 6'4", 230 pounds. He almost has like a Josh Allen kind of power game to him. The Seahawks have gone against some dual threat quarterbacks in this year. I mean, would it be Jaden Daniels? Would it be Kyler Murray, of course, the Arizona Cardinals, but not many guys that have the power that Drake May possesses. I don't know that Seattle is necessarily going to go with a spy as a defender. But I think that there's no doubt about it. If Nick Eamon is not on the field for Seattle, they may not have the ability to do that. They may have to kind of just focus in on their ability to kind of contain from the outside and funnel action in the middle. And that's going to be that much more critical for Drake for Drake Thomas and for Ernest Jones III to be able to have a big impact on this game.
As far as a matchup that is swaying towards the Seahawks, at least you and I are on the same tangent on this. And we talked a little bit about it in yesterday's show. But that left side of the offensive line for New England, 2 rookies. Will Campbell's given up 3 sacks in the playoffs. Jared Wilson's given up 2. Now, Wilson's been better the last 2 games. A lot of his issues were in the first matchup against the Chargers. Campbell was slightly better in the game against Denver. He was really rough in the first 2 playoff games. So they both played a little bit better in the most recent playoff game, but still were not great. That still feels like, and we talked about some yesterday, I think you have DeMarcus Lawrence and Leonard Williams on that side, and you might be able to move those 2 guys around some. And you can really get after these rookies and toy with them with 2 seasoned vets that have great technique. They can win with speed and power, speed turned into power. You name it, you can do some stunts against these guys too. I have a feeling that Mike McDonald, when you're looking to pick on the rat, that is the rat, those 2 guys over there that you're going to be trying to exploit and see if you can get some quick pressures on Drake May and get the rookie to take some quick sacks or may be flustered and make some bad decisions with the football. I think that left side, particularly in the pass rushing game, if New England can find a way to limit the damage over there, it gives them a chance. If Seattle's defensive line dominates over there, it's going to be really hard for New England to get anything going on offense.
I almost disagree with you. I mean, New England has struggled a little bit in protecting the left side all season long and certainly throughout the playoffs. I mean, their two rookies have been smoked throughout most of the playoffs. And I think that the Seahawks will absolutely, be very successful in making those two rookies by name, Will Campbell, the left tackle, and Jared Wilson, the left guard, struggle. I think that Leonard Williams is going to completely blow up Jared Wilson at the left guard position. I think that whether it be DeMarcus Lawrence, whether it be Uchenna Nwosu, whether it be the long arms and power of Derek Hall, or the speed, as I mentioned before, of Boye Mafe, they're going to blow right on past Will Campbell. Will Campbell was the number 4 overall selection in this year's draft. Just in my rankings, he was 10th. And I think that he shouldn't have been drafted as high as he was. He just does not have the arm. Like he said, 32 and 5/8 inch arms. That is average at guard. It is severely below average at left tackle. He doesn't have great quickness. He doesn't have arm length. The Seahawks should be able to get an awful lot of pressure on Drake May. It may not matter, because if they run the football successfully on Seattle, then again, does it really matter? It hasn't mattered for the Patriots to this point. The Seahawks will get pressure off of the left side. Now you have to punish the quarterback if that is going to actually wind up being a deciding factor in this football game. But similar to what we talked about with JSN and Christian Gonzalez on Seahawks on offense, I think this is the number one matchup to watch for the Seahawks perspective. You will get 4, 5, perhaps even more sacks against Drake May. Do you get the sack that actually matters, that ends the game? That to me is going to be the determining factor in Super Bowl 60.
As always, you can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Corbin Smith NFL. You can follow Rob at Rob Rang. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Seahawks on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. And check out the Everydayer Club, LockedOnSeahawks.supercast.com. Ad-free Locked On Seahawks, private Discord group access, and much more. $5 a month, $50 a year, and you get your first month free right now through Super Bowl Sunday if you enter into code Super Bowl. We'll be back tomorrow for a Super Bowl Blue Friday edition. It'll be Nick Lee and myself, and we'll be tackling a number of different topics. We've also got Crossover Thursday. I'm getting all my days mixed up this week with the Super Bowl, but we will have a couple of episodes dropping your way. Make sure that you are listening in as we get closer to the big game on Sunday. Thanks for listening. Go Hawks.